What's going on, America? This is Kevin from Kevin's Corner, where I try to make sense out of nonsense. And I got some real nonsense today for y'all. This might be a little long of a video because this subject is so deep that I got to dissect it. I got to break it down. Can't afford to be shallow. Can't afford to leave any stones unturned. All the evidence must be laid out there to destroy you know who. Little Bri-N. Now, you know what? Let me wet my whistle for the... So, you know how things are done. This is for the people out there who don't see the game, because, you know, I get stuff sent to me from people who I know and they're friends of mine, and they send me these taglines thinking I'm going to be impressed, thinking I'm going to be like, say what? Donald Trump said that? I'm done with him. So I get this thing today sent from a friend of mine that's talking about Donald Trump tells congresswomen go back to their country. And I'm like, well, that doesn't sound smart. Why would you say that? Because, see, in the context that the article was showing, makes it seem like you're like, you know what? You people don't even belong here. You need to go on now. Go back to your country where you belong. See, so that's the context in which they wanted me to think, just by the bold lettering right there. I was like, okay, I see where this is going. So I decided to go read the whole tweet. Then something pops on my timeline with little Brian Stelter. And he happens to be covering something about the climate crisis and what's going on here in the United States with disinformation. He's going to let us know so we can be protected and be informed, right? Now, I said to myself, this should be rich. Well, before I get into this, I got to break it down to y'all so all the people who might catch this video will understand what's being done to them. If you want to create a narrative, if you want to cause a flock of people or a society to start thinking one way, or to accept something, or to change their opinion about something, or to simply shut their mouths in opposition to whatever, agenda you have, there's a systematic way that they go about it. First thing, they create the narrative, okay? They throw all this stuff out there, blast it out, and they want to make sure people see this and they go, oh my God, that's horrible. I didn't know this was going on. The second thing they do is they make sure that they attack or stifle any of the alternative narratives. So you use the power of the media and the people who own it to suppress alternative narratives. That is why most people who don't look at alternative news still thinks Donald Trump is a racist, and they still think that Michael Brown was like, oh, hands up, don't shoot, and they just shot him in the middle of the street for no reason. They still think Donald Trump mocked a reporter, disabled reporter. All of these narratives, a lot of people are still walking around thinking this, and the reason I know this because they will bring these things up to me. And I have to say, well, did you look at any alternative information to find out if it lined up with the CNN headlines and MSNBC headlines? No. Well, there you have it. So, because liberals own Google, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of those things, they're able to say, let's not let alternative narratives go out there. Make it hard for these people to find that stuff, because we don't want to change their minds, or we don't want them seeing that we created a false narrative. Then the third thing you do is you attack anybody who's vocal about an alternative narrative or a different way of thinking. You demonize them. You straight up let them know, hey, this person right here is lying to you, because, see, now remember, they got the power in the media. So they can bring all these important looking and sounding people, right? And they can talk about, I have a PhD in microbiology and human studies and psychology, and what they're suffering from is a mental disorder that actually causes one to be racist. There's a racist gene out there that we've studied. We don't have conclusive data, but we're in the process of proving the racism gene exists. So you get all these people who come on there, and then they demonize the people who have the audacity to speak out against their false narratives. So it's a strategy. They're sitting in some room somewhere saying, we got to push our global agenda and our liberalism. So first things first, Trump's racist, misogynist, sexist, homophobe, xenophobe, and so on and so forth. Secondly, anybody who tries to oppose that, whether they be on YouTube, Facebook, MSNBC, all of that stuff. Let's demonize them. Yeah. Thirdly, let's not let any information get out there for people to get hold to see that, hey, that's not how it happened. So, of course, we get little Bri-N Stelter with his preemptive strike. Now, I'm about to let y'all see the worst form of projection ever. And watch how he ends this. Let's see what little Bri-N Stelter has to say.
The information wars are raging, and real, reliable information is getting lost in a blizzard of BS. BS that's designed to deceive you. And most of the misinformation is not coming from Russian.
Now, you have to understand, he starts off, information is in a mess, and there's a lot of BS, and it's designed to deceive you. Now, I wonder where this is going. Somehow my gut tells me this whole segment is going to go right back to Donald Trump, because everything they do is surrounding Donald Trump. They're like, you know what? He's our number one story. Our goal and objective is not to report anything. I don't care if that old lady flew over the Empire State Building. Yep, that's right. There's a lady up there flying. She looks like the flying nun. It's amazing. CNN's like, that's not a story. Let's get to Donald Trump. So we know where it's going, okay? Just the title alone, disinformation. So instead of just talking about plain disinformation, starting with their company, who do it all the time, they're now going to start to go straight towards you-know-who.
Trolls, meddlers, or other foreign governments. Yeah, that's a problem, but most of this stuff is coming from right in our own backyards. In America, it is fellow Americans peddling smears and racism. In China, it's the Chinese government spewing propaganda. And in India, well, here's a quote from Facebook's former security chief saying, in India, the disinformation is being driven by India's political parties.
So now,
all around the world.
In America, now he's trying to soften it like, no, I'm not just saying Donald Trump. No. There's everybody. It's all over the place. But in America, they're pushing smears and racism. Okay, remember the rule, when in doubt, spray a little racism on it. Okay, so right now he's breaking out his bottle. He got his bottle of racism and he's ready to break it out. Let's continue.
Growing problem. Hundreds of years ago, newspaper owners and pamphleteers were able to spread lies. The difference now is the speed and the reach and the allure of the internet. Information is being weaponized. Attention is being hijacked.
Now you see that? Information is being weaponized, okay? So you know what he's doing right about now? What he is doing is he's setting the argument up against alternative news. So now he's talking about the internets, because see, this right here is what hurt Hillary Clinton. They weren't ready for it. They weren't ready for independent bloggers and Facebookers and all of these people on Twitter and stuff to see through their garbage and expose their disinformation campaign and their gaslighting. So what did they try to do? They're now attacking them, letting them know, hey, look, if you're on the internet and you hear something contrary to what CNN and MSNBC has to say, it's probably not true. Yeah, this right here will justify us going and tattletelling on the YouTubers and on Facebook and Twitter and saying they're lying. You need to shut them down because they're going to make us lose another election. Let's continue.
All of us are really just starting to adapt. It was a lot easier in these days than it is today. The world is very murky, but there is a dividing line, and I want us to keep it in mind in this entire program today. I think it's between the people who are trying to be constructive and careful, caring about truth, accountable to an editor or a boss or someone, versus people who are unaccountable.
Trying to be accountable to an editor or a boss or something. So basically only quote unquote legitimate news sources, okay? Because see, we're accountable to an editor who tells us that we should go out and spread this propaganda and these lies. Unlike those pesky YouTubers and bloggers and alternative news sources out there that just simply uses their common sense as their editor. See, so now all of a sudden he's setting it up to say that we're professional and we're accountable. Unlike all of these other people out there that simply just goes off the top of their dome. See, so let's continue and see what little Bri-N Stelter has to say.
Constructive, caring only about winning the information war. Constructive versus destructive. That is the dividing line. That brings me, of course, to President Trump. Trump creates such a flurry of
So now we know his real motive. Look where he's at. Brings me to President Trump. That's where you wanted to go in the first place. Why even go ahead and warm us up with all of the extra stuff like we don't see it coming? And well, I'm just here to talk about disinformation. Should have just started off with, I don't like Donald Trump. We're trying to destroy him and paint a false narrative about him. So let me get into it. But let's hear what he got to say.
That the truth melts away like an ice cube on a summer day. I could show you 100 examples, but here's just one from this week. Out of nowhere, Trump retweeted a really loyal Trump superfan who posted this the day after the Charlottesville riot. She wrote here, "These protests are not spontaneous. They're pre-manufactured by OFA." She means Obama. And then she linked to a Lou Dobbs segment from Fox Business. This is lunacy. A Twitter user who spent...
So how's that lunacy? I don't understand. We found out that these are paid protesters, crisis actors, all of that stuff. I don't know why it's lunacy. If you go online and look at real people who were down in Charlottesville and witness what was going on, I think there's a lot of evidence that shows that these things are paid. Look at Hillary Clinton. I mean, we found out through Project Veritas that she was paying people to go into the Trump rallies and start riots, start fights, act a fool, get themselves thrown out. So that's legit. I don't see why that's even a problem. But Brian Stelter don't want to get into the details. He just simply concludes it's lunacy. Now let me move on.
All day sharing pro-Trump, anti-immigrant memes, picks up a Fox segment, uses it, okay?
So he shows pro-Trump, anti-immigrant memes. Is that illegal? Is that wrong to show pro-Trump memes and anti-immigrant memes? I mean, I would think that everybody should be anti-illegal immigrant meme. Now, this guy right here didn't mention that. He just says anti-immigrant. See, that's disinformation. Brian's leaving stuff out. That's the second phase. Leave out details. Okay, here's our narrative. All right, there's disinformation going on out there and it's killing real news. Secondly, leave out information. Thirdly, demonize the person who's giving the information.
White supremacist violence was actually Obama's fault, to take the heat off Trump. And the president retweeted it 2 years later, and no one even bat an eyelash because Trump says so much, and the web is so chaotic, and it's all so crazy that it's just background noise in this never-ending information battle. That's what I mean when I say there's an information war going on. None of this is journalism. These memes, these smears, this crap has no relationship to journalism.
Well, now see, here's the problem with that. He said none of this is journalism, but what's really going on is influential. A meme is more powerful than Brian Stelter talking. So that is why they use memes, because the left don't know how to make memes. The right make memes that make people say, yeah, that does make sense, or that doesn't make sense. That's stupid, or whatever. So now he's trying to attack or demonize the memes and the people who make them, and by saying that's not news. See, whatever has the greatest influence and make the most sense, that's what they're attacking. And memes have a big impact. They stay in your brain oftentimes more than this disinformation. So here we go.
Have to grapple with this misinformation muck, what we used to call fake news, actually fake stories designed to deceive you. Because otherwise the result is uninformed, ill-informed readers. We saw this at the White House social...
Ill-informed readers. Now look where he's going. He's about to go ahead and attack the president and his whole media meeting that he had at the White House. Now, understand, this man right here is talking about ill-informed viewers or whatever. CNN, all of their audience who watches them are probably the most ill-informed audience you could think of, okay? They rely on a low viewer IQ when it comes down to politics or social issues. That's why they can get away with propaganda like this.
Media summit that wasn't. Did you hear about this a few days ago? It was a clear stunt by the president. He was ridiculing reporters while inviting in internet trolls and far-right Twitter personalities and fringe radio hosts to the White House. In some ways, maybe a campaign rally for 2020. It was tempting to say we should...
So now he's just going to come in and just straight up define what the president was doing. I don't know. Maybe Brian Stelter was there. Was he hiding under the coat rack or something? Was he dressed like one of these video bloggers or something? Maybe, and yet he's going to attack that as if it was a bad thing. And there was no right to have that at the White House, like it was a secret society meeting or something. We're going to get back into this. I'm going to go ahead and do part 2 of this. I don't want to keep the video too long. So we're going to stop right there, and I'm going to start up with part 2. All right, God bless. Check out part 2. It's coming real soon. All right, America. So now this is part 2, finishing up with little Brian Stelter, who is using disinformation and using a lot of gaslighting and using projection to go after all of the people that are contrary to all of the false narratives in the agenda of the left. He's doing exactly what he's claiming everybody else is doing. So now, I ended talking about now Brian Stelter in his little piece has started to shift his attention towards the president and then this little event that the president had when it came down to the social media people that he invited. Now, remember what I told you. If you want to change a narrative, create an idea and implement it into society and have them embrace it, you have to do three things. First thing, create the narrative and put it out there. Secondly, use the power of the media to suppress any alternative narratives. Thirdly, anybody who speaks out against your narrative, you demonize them. It's an easy strategy, but when you have the power of the media and influence like that and control like that, you control what people think, you control what people see or don't see. So that's what CNN and the rest of them are trying to do, because see what's have gotten in their way is us pesky little bloggers, us pesky little YouTubers and people on Twitter. Look how he refers to them.
Call it a stunt and move on. But something important was happening. Trump was legitimizing provocateurs and in some cases extremists who deliberately spread misinformation.
Oh, okay. So provocateurs and some cases extremists who spread disinformation. Really? So now he just assumes he's not going to give you any evidence. He didn't say, you know what, these 2 or 3 people inside that meeting were extremists or they have disseminated misinformation. It's just, that's my own opinion, but I need you to take my opinion as fact, okay? I'm sure Brian Stelter will probably say that I'm a troll, because see, in the last clip, he even referred to the people that were invited were, just little bloggers and internet trolls and things like that. They're not serious people, not people that need to be taken to heart. Now, these are just playing around. Trump just said, you know what, you're my foot soldiers, and I'm going to bring you in to go out and sow disinformation. So understand why he's doing this. This is a preemptive strike against any alternative narratives, because what's happening, CNN, MSNBC, and all those other fake outlets are getting their mouths smashed in by alternative news sources. And that is why they're trying to censor us, and Brian Stelter is adding to it. He's the little tattletale that every time something goes on, they're saying stuff, you should ban them, you should silence them.
Like he was preparing his 2020 meme corpse. The folks that make those visual images that spread all across Facebook and go viral. As Charlie Warslow of the New York Times put it, the summit suggests that 2016's meme army was just proof of concept for an information war in 2020. Warslow said, whatever is coming, we're not prepared.
Right. And they weren't prepared in 2016. See, and that's what made them mad. That's why they're launching their preemptive strike, because guess what? In 2016, those memes was exposing all of the corruption and making it in a light-hearted, funny way, but yet leaving the impact in people's mind like, yeah, that does make sense. Oh, yeah, Hillary is crooked, though. Oh, yeah, CNN's fake news, all of that stuff. They didn't like Trump jumping in and giving them the pound on the top of the head. Hurt their feelings. They went and tattletold. Trump, let's go find that guy and dox him. Whoever made that meme. So this is how they're trying to prepare to fight back. And they're saying that, we're not ready for what's coming. Absolutely, you're not ready. And that's why you're trying to get prepared by little pieces like this to set the premise that whatever you hear, if it doesn't come out of our mouths, it's not true. It's these trolls. It's the fake news. It's Trump and his foot soldiers and his minions. That's what that is. Let's continue.
Newsrooms, media companies, the people that try to make sense of the world for you.
Wow. Yeah, I probably dropped that on purpose, because you hear what that man just said. People that try to make sense of the world for you. So subliminally, what he's saying is only trust us. We're the ones really looking out for you. And we want you to buy into whatever image and perception of the world we create. We want you to embrace our sense, our reality, the one we're creating for you. That's the one you really need to trust. Let's continue.
Democratic congresswomen who need to go back.
Now, wait. I skipped ahead. Oh, here it is. When I dropped it, it went ahead.
For straight up racism out of the.
Okay, here we go.
Supported by television hosts, radio hosts.
Reliable sources.
Facebook pages, Twitter accounts.
Here we go.
Before we bring in the panel. These smears, these lies, this misinformation that comes mostly on the right from pro-Trump websites, Facebook pages, Twitter accounts.
So what is he saying? I want them shut down. I want them silenced. And I want my audience to only trust us and not believe any of them, because I'm doing everything in this video I can to undermine the truth, to attack any of those people who are saying it. We're getting a jump on it, okay? We're getting a preemptive strike going, because we don't want to get beat up and mocked like we did for the last 2 or 3 years, because we are fake news. So let's continue.
Television hosts, radio hosts, they are softening the ground for straight up racism out of the president's Twitter account. And that is what we are seeing today. This is one of the president's most recent tweets. Straight up racist, talking about progressive congresswomen. Let's read part of it here. He says, it's so interesting to see.
So here it is. Y'all ready for it? Where's the... Sprinkle a little racism on it. Here it is. He's about to sprinkle some racism. Now, understand, this is exactly what he's talking about. Demonizing us, saying that this is how the right is. Watch what he does. Exactly what he is projecting on the right. He is going to do exactly, use the technique I told y'all about. Create the narrative. Trump's a racist, and he's using social media to spew racism. The second part is, let's give you information, but suppress the other information. Anything that will contradict our narrative. Then the third one, let's demonize the person that supports this, the person who said it, and blow that out there so everybody would say, well, this person's a beast. He's an animal. Let's see what he says.
Congresswomen, we'll put it back up in a sec, who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe. Now
let me read what the whole thing says. Here's the whole tweet that Bri-N is reading, and watch what he does. It says, and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back to help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? And then it says, then come back and show us how to do it. Notice the end of that tweet. Now look what Bri-N does.
Viciously telling the people of the United States how to run the government. Here's the key part. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Now, he's probably talking about Representative Ilhan.
Now, notice what he does. He leaves off the part at the bottom. In fact, they blurred it out. Then come back and show us how. And then they just blurted that out. All of that. Now, what are they doing? Suppressing information. They don't want y'all to see that Trump was not using this in the context of go back to your country because you're black and go back to the country because you're a woman. He's saying, if you're going to be over here in this country, benefiting off of all the things that the country provided for you in a position of authority and power, but yet complaining about how horrible the country is. If you can't see how good it is, maybe you should look around and see some of the places that you could go or where you came from. And if you're that smart to where you're telling us how to run this country and it sucks, go back, show us how to do it, fix the country you came from, then come back here and show us how to do it. He didn't say, go back and fix your country. Don't ever come back. We don't want you over here. Brian Stelter just used disinformation, left off the end of the statement to create a narrative, a false narrative, and using this in the context of Trump being racist, of course. Now notice, Trump never mentions anything about race in this whole tweet. Nothing. But watch what he does. He's inserting it.
Omar, who was born in Somalia, who fled to Kenya and then came to the United States when she was 12 years old. There are other Democratic congresswomen who she is associated with, who she is friendly with, all of whom were born in the United States. But the president's talking about Democratic congresswomen who need to go back to where they're from.
Once again, leave it there. Go back to where they're from. Is that it? That's all, Brian? You're telling me that's the end of the statement? Now do you see what they're doing? Now do you see the deception? He, in this little piece, went and attacked every facet of alternative media. He went straight to social media, deemed them as disinformation, and most of this rhetoric is coming from people that's on the right. They're extremists. Trump is in cahoots with them, and Trump is a racist, and these platforms are allowing him to spew it out. Even though in this tweet he's not talking about anybody's race, but nonetheless, I'm going to just assume that that's why he said what he said. And then he says, look what he said. Go back to your country. Yeah. Now, if I'm a dummy, that's all I see. All I read. If I'm listening to Bri-N Stelter, I'm like, Trump's a racist. He hates all black people. He's telling, what is it, me next? He's going to tell me to go back to Africa. But because I'm intelligent, and when I saw the headline, I said, wait a minute. Let's get to the bottom of this, because I got a feeling they're trying to pull a fast one on us, and they are. Let's see. Look what he brings out now. Some people to support his narrative.
It's 2019. We're 2.5 years into the Trump presidency, and his racism is becoming more obvious, more frightening. There are millions of Americans, black and brown Americans, who know exactly what he means when he says, go back to where you came from. They've heard.
Really? That's what we know? Because see, when I heard that and I saw the rest of the tweet, he said, show us how to do it. Your country or where you came from is already jacked up. If you can't fix that, don't tell me what to do. Frankly, this could apply to all the Democrats who govern broken down, poor areas and districts, but yet they're trying to run for office to run the country. Or they're in Congress and their own areas are horrible, and yet they got the nerve to criticize the president. Go back to California, Nancy, fix San Francisco, then come back and talk to us. And that goes for the rest of them sorry Democrats that's running for office. And then this dude's talking about well, everybody knew what he was talking about. No, you're trying to tell us what he meant by that versus let us decide by giving us non-biased information and including the whole statement. Bri-N Stelter.
Heard those words on the schoolyard, behind their backs at work. That kind of racism that Americans have been fighting against for decades is coming from the president's Twitter feed.
Now, notice he's not even putting it in the context. He's not even saying, hey, listen, all of this is a statement that has been prompted by nothing but listening to these ladies run around criticizing America, saying it sucks, especially Ilhan Omar, who was rescued by America, given asylum, allowed her to go all the way to the top in Congress, and yet she got the nerve to say America hasn't done enough and hasn't done anything. This place is the most racist place. Well, you can always go back to Somalia, fix that place first, then come back. See, so he wants all that to be left off. He wants you to assume that Trump just looked straight at her color with no origin, no prompt, no nothing, no sitting back, looking at all of her tweets and comments and statements and attacking America and their values. None of that stuff played into this statement. He just got up one day, looked at the black lady and was like, yeah, you know what? They need to go back to their country. See, disinformation.
There's no bigger story in the country right now. And I want to relate this to the media by pointing out that the ground has been softened for this stuff from the president by this collection of pro-Trump bloggers, radio hosts, television stars.
There it is. Now, let's go ahead and broaden our attack. See, it got to be a multi attack. We can't just focus on the president because there's a lot of people to support the president. So now we got to go ahead and try to smear all of the other areas that information is being disseminated from. We don't want those things being credible either. We got to now just say, well, you know who prepared him and set him up to be able to use all this racist talk is all these social media outlets, Twitters, bloggers. Go get them. We want y'all to silence these people, and so they can only believe us, trusted network like CNN. That's all we want. We just want to be the only source of your information because we're credible, right? Okay. See, now watch what he does.
I think it's acceptable to attack fellow Americans like this. Let's talk about these information wars and a lot more. Again, a special edition of the program, and I've got a special panel to start us off. Former senior advisor to National Security Advisor under Obama, the CNN national security analyst Sam Vinograd is here. Robbie Suave is an associate editor of Reason magazine, and he's the author of Panic Attack, Young Radicals in the Age of Trump.
So they bring these people on here, these garbage commentators who already probably been prompted backstage. All right, we need you to go ahead and jump on board with this narrative. All right, no need to show credibility or any information or reasoning or nothing like that. Just echo what we say. Follow me, follow my lead, okay? That's what they're about to do right now. These people are so wicked and corrupt, it's unbelievable. The sad part is some Joe is watching this segment and going, yep, see, I told you. All you got to do, go back, use a little bit of phonics, a little bit of understanding about context, and read the whole tweet, and you'll see what he was talking about.
And from Vox, senior politics reporter Jane Coatstunk. Jane, let me start with you. The president's tweets I view as part of this information war that's raging. And obviously he posts so much so often, that's part of his strategy. But are today's tweets different at all?
I mean, I think we can all remember the Judge Curiel incident of 2016 to know that this is not new, that President Trump's views of who is adequately American are, shall we say, different from my own. But I think that it's reflective of this understanding that to criticize this country means that you are no longer able to be a representative of this country, which is a very strange thing for someone.
No, what he's saying is if you're going to be here in this country and you don't love the country, then why are you here? First of all, that goes from a natural born citizen. There's a lot of Democrats who was born on this soil that probably should just get up, pack up, and bounce the way they talk about America. As much as they say America sucks, it's all racist and sexist and misogynist, and this country's going down the tubes, and we're not where we was in the past, and the country was never great. Get out of here. All he's saying is this: if you're going to be in Congress, if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to be an American citizen, especially an immigrant that migrated from here by the grace of Americans who said bring them over, you should show a little appreciation and be able to say, well, not all things are bad about America. They saved my life. Where would I be if they wouldn't have brought me over here?
Who in 2015 described America as a hellhole to do. And I think that it's interesting, though, that this hasn't changed. You know, this is the same language he used about Judge Curiel of Indiana. This is the same language he's used again and again and again.
You don't think the racism is getting more explicit in some cases?
I think if you've been paying attention, this is just kind of the basic way in which he talks about people with who don't follow him. You know, I think that there's an understanding of Trump.
See,
I think one of the challenges.
There it is. More disinformation. He's not referring to race. They are the only ones that are bringing up race, okay? If it wasn't for people like this and channels like this and the Democrats, who every chance they get, spray a little racism on it. If it wasn't for them, people wouldn't be waking up every day thinking about race. Nobody would have interpreted this statement as racist. Nobody would be looking at illegal immigration and census questions as being racist. They would be saying those are common sense things. Trump never talks about race. He talks about practical stuff. He's talking about an attitude. He's talking about the things that people say and do, but he's not bringing up race. They're inferring that he's doing this because of their race.
Is that you're going to start seeing a lot of people attempt to defend these tweets by arguing that no, he just meant this one representative. He just meant this. Maybe he did mean go back to Cincinnati. But you're going to start to see that back and forth, that back and forth. But the thing is, what is at the root of this is an understanding that if you criticize how this country works, you are no longer. You're no longer acceptable to the president. You're no longer available to continue in the work that you're doing.
Yeah, or as American as the rest.
Right.
Robbie, how do you view it?
Yeah, I think it's a shameful that this faction of the pro-Trump right has seemed to actually embrace identity politics, something the right has long criticized as being bad.
Now, here is the most amazing thing about this projection. What identity politics have we embraced? I'm sorry. Last I checked, that nobody talked about her race, her sex, her nothing. Only thing we talked about was her attitude. That funky, nasty, dirty, unappreciated attitude that she has. You're bringing in identity politics. Y'all are emphasizing black, woman, gay, rich, poor, all of that stuff. He's just talking about she's a representative in Congress who has a nasty attitude towards America. How about this? Show us how to do it. Go back to your country, fix that up, come back to us, and then we'll listen to you.
But they have embraced it as now, if you look different or you're from somewhere else, that defines you, and thus we're going to criticize you on that grounds. And that's a thing that the right used to be really against, or at least claim purportedly to be against. And now it's driving and defining so much of their criticism of other people. And again, Trump ran on that.
That is the most unbelievable projection I have ever heard in my life. This man said that we want to focus on sex, color, race, all of that, and this drives our whole campaign. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't recall that when Trump gets up there and he brings up a group of people is based off of just the race, legal, illegal. If the shoe fits, wear it. All right. Mexico, yep, they were bringing a lot of people over here. If the shoe fits and wear it when it comes down to certain countries that have a high probability of terrorists in it that happen to be Muslim countries. But he's not saying I hate all Muslims only because they're Muslim. That's the only reason they're radical. Or Mexicans, all of them. See, this is the type of demonization that comes out of the left and the strategies that they use. And some poor Joe out there probably watched this whole segment and didn't even see he was being brainwashed. Tick tock, but not me. And that's why I'm here to tell you and expose you about these nasty, funky, corrupt Democrats and all their minions that they hire to come on and echo their talking points. Now, you've been listening to Kevin and Kevin's Corner. I couldn't let little Bri-N Stelter get away with that. God bless you. Check me out every Wednesday night live in Kevin's Corner. I'll probably be talking about this again on my YouTube channel. Don't forget to also listen to my radio blog talk show. Hit like, hit share, hit subscribe, and the notification button. Also, check out Extreme Tees, my sponsor. The link is in the bottom of this video. If you like something, click on it and you'll get a 20% discount and free shipping. And if you want to donate to Kevin and Kevin's Corner, feel free. There's a link in the bottom of this video to do that as well. And find me on Facebook and the Twitter, and we'll see you next time in Kevin's Corner.